knows that it's nowhere near cross country. It's
Little stretches where it was like potholy grass and like it was not nice.
you wouldn't do well in cross country. All right, so we are back. Third day post FKT Cataraqui Trail. We won't bury the lead. You took the FKT in epic fashion, but be nice to sit down and kind of talk about this and share it for everybody who followed along to kind of give a breakdown of how it happened and what you went through, maybe some of the fueling, the secondary fueling that we did, and some of the fun things that went along the way. So first, do you want to tell everybody how you ended up finishing this?
Yeah, so 8 hours, 28 minutes, and 58 seconds. Is that
That's
accurate?
correct. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah,
Just shy
started.
of 103K officially from the trail from start to start. Yep.
Yeah, I think there might have been a little bit of a GPS stuff on my watch, but started in Strathcona, so just outside Napanee at 6 a.m. in the dark, and finished whatever 8.5 hours later is.
Yeah. And in that just shy of 6 minutes stoppage time total.
Yes.
So your running time was 8:22, 8:23, I believe.
8:23 of
Yeah.
active
So
moving time.
yeah. So which is like nutty to think about that over 8.5 hours, right? You stop 6 minutes, give or take. We'll just round up to 6 minutes of
Yeah.
time. And that includes bathroom stops, puking stops, which we will get into,
hmm
calf cramping stops where you're getting massages, right? And so, you were ahead, and we'll kind of break down some of the splits and such, but you were ahead up until about 65, 70K, you were ahead before things kind of caught up. So how did it feel? Let's first kind of get your take on it, and then we can break it down.
The beginning, the middle, or the end? Where do you want to go?
Start at the beginning.
Starting at the beginning. I went into this run feeling extremely confident. And for better or worse, I had a very charmed experience of my previous ultras, if you want to call them. Like my 50K felt easy, my 80K felt easy. I went into this 100 plus K expecting it to largely feel easy because that was the only experience I had had. So I was not worried about the distance. I was not worried about bonking. I knew I'd have to pace it a little more conservatively, take in more fuel, but there was no part of me that wasn't thinking I wasn't going to get this or finish this. However, I probably should have thought more about the fact that my 50K and 80K were on the KMP trail, which runs north south, and we were doing this FKT on the Cataraqui Trail. So, an entirely different trail network. It runs east west or west east, and it is a much harder trail, in my opinion. It's not as well maintained, not as well groomed. Um, it was hard on the body.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I knew that because I've run out that direction. I just chose not to tell you because you don't like grass or anything that's not basically pancake flat roads. And so I knew it was coming. I've run most of that trail over the years, but I knew it like you describe it as if it was cross country. Anybody who's actually run cross country knows that it's nowhere near cross country. It's
Little stretches where it was like potholy grass and like it was not nice.
you wouldn't do well in cross country.
No.
So it wasn't even close to cross country. If you want, you can go watch the videos of ACXC this past weekend and you'll see cross country. But there was
Yeah.
grass on the trail. It was fine. And so, obviously I knew that would play into it a little bit for you. But that's one of the reasons why we had decided to go west to east. One, tailwind. Two, super close to home. We could get to the start line in 25, 30 minutes versus driving, give or take 75, 80 minutes.
hmm
Um, and so even on the drive up, you're like, why can't we start at 7? Because we started at 6 a.m. And I was like, cuz if you get this first stretch done out of the dark, it's the stretch you know well. You've got no problem with footing during that. Like you've probably run 1,000 miles on that stretch at this point now
hmm
in your marathon training over the years. And so if you think about it that way, it's like, all right, we got that done. And I think you really enjoyed the sun coming up too, which was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was nice. Like as you said, so my alarm on Saturday morning was set for 4:30 in the morning, which is earlier than most times I set my alarm for when I was training for Berlin. Like this was
Yeah.
cruel and unusual and unlike in the summer, like it's dark. Like it's not light out. It was cold. We had gotten snow and rain and wind the past 2 or 3 days. But yeah, started in the dark with Caleb at 6 a.m. We both had our headlamps on. Was conscientious of my footing just because it is dark and you only get so much light from a headlamp. But as you said, know that stretch of trail, that 13 and a half kilometers really, really well. There's no real potholes or sketchy areas, like unless you're crossing a road where sometimes there's a little bit of broken gravel. But yeah, the first 75 minutes went really easy according to plan. And then as you said, the sun came up. So no issues there.
Yeah, and just while we're on that topic there, what gear were you using? I know that's a question people ask all the time. So tell them about the shoes, the vest, the top. You know, you had a headlamp, tights, all that kind of stuff. So break it down for anybody maybe just listening, what all you were wearing for this attempt here.
Yeah, head to toe. I was using one of my dad's hunting headlamps. I have a running specific headlamp. I don't know, the headband got stretched out. I couldn't tighten it. It's like 558. I was like, I'm not messing around with this. We had brought an extra one. So the headlamp was my dad's that he used to deer hunt. I was wearing a Solomon long sleeve, kind of like a mock neck, very soft, very comfortable. I had a Solomon vest. I would have loved to wear shorts. Like I love pocketed shorts. I don't love running in leggings. Anyone that knows me, I will wear a vest and long sleeve and gloves and still choose to wear shorts. But it was very cold. We had done our Fritter Friday run the day before. I was freezing the day before. So I was like, there's probably not a very good chance I'm going to be able to run in shorts tomorrow. So I wore my Lululemon tights that have pockets. And then on my feet, I was wearing the Salomon Phantasm 2s. So they are a carbon plated road shoe, which might seem funny given that I'm running on a trail. But as you so kindly pointed out, it's not cross country, it's a rail trail. There are long stretches where it's very good footing. There are other stretches where it's not so great footing, but it didn't really require a trail shoe or cross country shoes or spikes. So the Phantasm 2 is actually what I ran the 80K in as well. It went beautifully. I had no blisters, no black toenails, anything like that. So I felt very confident wearing those shoes again for this. And on that note, yeah, I was very, very graciously given all of those Solomon products by my friend Eric, who was a rep for them. So very lucky to be kitted out, and yeah, my gear was great.
Awesome. And so, that leads us into the next point I wanted to really highlight was the community that we have here who supported you for that locally and afar. Like people were messaging, like it took you hours to catch up on Instagram messages and such. But like locally here, we had some really crucial people that kind of came out and supported you. So Caleb started with you and stayed with me the whole day crewing, ran again. And then you had some close training partners, Owen and Steve. And then you had some surprises. So do you want to say who came out and what I organized and what that meant to you?
Yeah. So as you said, Caleb and I started at 6 a.m. in the dark. We made it to Yarker, so 13 and a half kilometers in. We picked up Owen. He ran with us for about 10 kilometers till we got to Harrowsmith. Then we dropped off Owen, picked up Steve. So the running joke was like we had a Fritter Friday relay going. It's like pass the donut, pass the baton to hand me off to one person to the next. Then Steve and I ran a really good stretch together for, I don't even know, maybe just under an hour and a half, 18, 19 kilometers. Steve ran with me, which was so appreciated. And as we were coming into Sydenham, there's a food land, and I see a couple people up on the trail, and I'm like, okay, like anyone that knows me, I have terrible vision. I can't see, like I wear contacts and I still can't see. Like that's how bad my eyesight is. And we were maybe, I don't even know, less than 100 meters away. And I clued in, like, this is my niece and nephew. This is Charlotte and Noah. And I was so surprised and so taken aback that I didn't have the time to process what that meant. Otherwise, like I would have stopped and given them a kiss, like a very short stop. But I like almost didn't realize it was them until I was practically past them. And so Steve and I continue running, and I just start sobbing, like just crying. I was like, oh my God, this is what a beautiful surprise. So yeah, I got pretty emotional.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Like I knew you'd be emotional about it, but I just knew Like one, I thought it was great for the kids to actually kind of see you and such and like see what it is you do because they're what, 3 and 4, so they're it might stick with them, but even still, it's a great role model experience, right? Especially for our niece to see what you do. And then also, I just knew early on because of what you had talked about in the 80K, getting bored, and I'm sure I thought like, oh, this will be a really cool emotional boost, like because you were around 30K at that point, 28, 30K give or take. To get that kind of boost. So that was like really cool. I thought that would be fun. And then I knew it was a decently long stretch to Perth Road, our next stop, which was roughly, I think, 41, give or take, when you saw the next people that were surprising you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the notebook in front of me
Yeah,
with
yeah.
all
It
the
was
props. My brain
roughly,
is mush. Like if you had told me different intersections, different kilometer marks, like I have a vague idea of when I threw up, when certain
yeah.
things happen, but outside of a couple of details, 103 kilometer markers, it's kind of meaningless to me at some points for kind of what went happened.
Fair enough. So, anyways, on our next stretch, our next kind of trailhead where I was meeting you to make sure you had bottles and stuff, we had another surprise for you to help you get through. So, who showed up for you that time?
My mom and dad.
Yeah, and your dad's your hero, right? So,
Yeah.
you did stop to give him a little kiss, actually.
Oh yeah, and that was the thing. When I passed Charlotte and Noah and didn't give them a kiss, I was, even though I was crying and I was emotional and happy, I was beating myself up. I was like, how could you not stop? Like I was hoping and praying that they were going to be at another trail crossing so I could make it up to them and give them both a hug and a kiss. But I just didn't know. I mean, like as you said, they're very young. I didn't know if their dad was going to tout them around to a different trail crossing. So when I saw far enough in advance that it was my mom and dad, I was like, oh hell yeah, like I'm giving my dad a kiss. Like I'm not making this mistake twice. So like ran by, gave my dad a kiss on the cheek, and he's like, go, 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 don't stop. Which was pretty funny. But again, saw mom and dad, started crying, and at that point, that's where Steve dropped off, and I started running
Yeah.
solo. Mhm.
Yeah, and so this was a funny part because your parents, we had kind of reassured them that there was going to be somebody with you the entire time, whether it was running, biking, or whatever. And literally the intersection they're at, Steve drops, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, oh, it's just a 5K stretch. Caleb will pick up next. And so you go to run this 5K stretch. You see us, and we're getting the bike ready, so Caleb can go with you. And when you see us, your parents came to see you at another stretch just after. It was about 4 or 5K. What did you see in the 5K that you were solo by yourself?
Oh, like 2 minutes after I dropped Steve, I saw a coyote on the trail.
Yeah,
And again, terrible vision. I see up ahead, I thought it was a dog, and I'm like looking left and right for an owner, for a person
yeah.
to be accompanying this dog. And when I get a little bit closer, I'm like, oh, that's not a dog, that's a coyote. And I'm like, what are the odds? I have had someone with me for now almost 40 kilometers,
Yeah,
this
give or
entire
take. Yeah.
time. And the second someone drops, 2 minutes later, I see a coyote on the trail. It was all by itself. Luckily, there wasn't a pack or anything. And he gave me barely any notice. He just sauntered across the trail and went off into like the tall grass. So no
Yeah.
issues there.
Which is fun. And so, at this point, we had planned a lot in terms of backups. Okay, we'll have people to run with her. We've got the bike in the car, and I've got Caleb with me, so we could switch off on the bike if we needed to. So we get the bike set up. We're ready to roll on the bike. Caleb goes out with you, and roughly a mile in, the pedal blows off the bike, and he's stranded out there. And you don't have your phone because you'd been running with people the whole time, so everybody had a phone so they could get in touch with me if they needed to. And it just so happened it was the longest stretch on the trail that had no trailhead entrance that you
Yeah.
were going to be solo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, this kind of really sucks. Hopefully everything goes well. I'm like, I know this trail. I know where I could like run on if need be, but all right, we'll figure it out. And so Caleb calls me. I go back, pick him up. We get to the next trail. You're still ahead at this point. You'd been running low 730 miles, 444, 445 kilometers,
Mhm.
sorry, mid 730, I think it's 737s. Miles ahead, feeling good. But this is the first time that things kind of went a little bit sideways. So what happened? You obviously lost your friends, right? You're just gone solo now.
Mhm.
What happened also during that span?
Yeah, so Caleb, as you said, was on the bike beside me for a couple minutes. I didn't realize what had happened. Like, I didn't realize there was a mechanical. He was just like, keep going, I'll catch up with you. I was like, okay. So I figured he's going to take 2 or 3 minutes, fix whatever's going on with the bike, but I had no idea what that was, how long it was going to be. And literally a couple minutes after Caleb had dropped off, I started to get like sharp shooting pains in my stomach. And like, I mean, like white hot knife repeatedly stabbing me. And I was like, what the hell? Like, this does not feel good. And so I started to kind of like try and press into my side, like make the stitch go away. Again, tried not to panic. It's like, you're out here for a really long time. It's probably not going to feel good the entirety of it, even though up until that point, it had felt really good. And the pain got worse and worse and worse. And then it started to bubble up into my throat. I was like, oh, you're about to throw up. Cool. And I kept trying to run and run, because even with bathroom breaks, it's like you want to basically wait until the point where like it's just going to happen. You're not waiting for it to happen to waste more time. So I started projectile vomiting on the trail. It was awful. So I threw up 3 times at that moment. And I then immediately started running again. And my stomach started feeling better after I had got out, my fuel and everything that had left my body. I started feeling better. And I was like, okay, like, don't panic. You were feeling really crummy, but now this helped. You're feeling better. And I was a bit gun shy because I didn't want to immediately take another gel or, more high carb, given that I had just thrown it all up. But I also know the importance of fuel. And it's like, you just lost everything that you've consumed for 3.5 hours. Because this was very shortly after the marathon pointer, 42K. And I said, you can't run another 55K without fuel. So I gave it a couple minutes to let my stomach settle after throwing up. And then I was like, you got to start taking fuel in again, because this isn't good. So I take a gel, sipping on it very, very slowly. I'm not like slurping it down in 1 or 2 goes. Like, I am like babying that gel essentially. And the craziest thing is like my legs are feeling great. Like, it was not a lower body problem. It was just my stomach. But got past that point, and I think that stretch, as you said, was about 20 kilometers where I ran solo.
Yeah, it ended up being about 18K, yeah, just over 10 miles, yeah.
Yeah, and then linked back up with Caleb on foot, not on bike, and then told him the story. I was like, so you'll never guess what just happened to me. And I tell him that I threw up, and like, I don't want to say he sounded excited, but he was just like, oh yeah, like that's normal. And he just like laughs it off, because Caleb has done ultras, he's done FKTs, he's done multi-day events where he knows that things rarely go according to plan. But for me, as someone that like expects things to go according to plan, like this was very unnormal and very unusual for me. And I didn't know how to navigate that, because it's something I've never come up against. Like, I've never thrown up in a race or,
just immediately after in Chicago, literally just after the line. Yep.
I know, but I had crossed the line. So him telling me, he's like, this is normal. Like, this is what ultras are. Like, you go to some like dark and low places and you have to crawl your way back. And so funny enough, on this stretch of trail that I started running with Caleb again, I feel that same stomach pain. And I was like, no, like I thought I'd gotten rid of it. I threw up, I did my thing. It felt better. And here it was bubbling back up again. And I was like, got to be kidding me. And so I tell Caleb, he's like, throw up. And I was like, well, it's not ready yet. Like, I know what it feels like when it's ready, but like it's there and it's going to happen sooner or later. And again, just wanting to wait until I couldn't wait any longer. So I start projectile vomiting again. I throw up another 3 times. So now the puke count is at 6, and I'm crying at the same time that I'm throwing up. Like, the first time I kept it pretty under control. The second time, like, I'm just breaking down, like in tears. Like, I'm looking to Caleb for permission to let me drop out and to let me quit. And like, he's again smiling at me. I think he was happy to see me like so emotional and like so like raw and in the moment. And he's just like, nope. He's like, you can slow down, but you're not stopping. And I was like, I just wanted someone to like tell me it's okay to drop out. Like, you've clearly come up against something you didn't plan for. This is not ideal. This isn't great. It's okay. You can stop. And Caleb was not that guy. So
yeah, that's why we have good friends. But so that was in and around 65K, because you just finished up the Pinnacle Road stretch, so 65 to 70. And that's where things started to really catch up to you in terms of the puking and not having the fueling in. So I remember going like, there was this town called Forfar, which was aptly named because you'd already gone so friggin' far at that point. And Caleb came up ahead of me, or he called me as you guys were coming in. I had like 6 minutes. I'm like in the middle of friggin' nowhere. And he's like, get some iced tea, get like something she could drink. So I go get iced tea, go get lemon square. You basically tell me to piss off with the lemon square, which was like, normally you like lemon squares, but all right, fair enough. And I put iced tea in a handheld for you. And apparently that's like the single best thing to bring you back to life, I guess.
Yeah. And again, God love you. God love Caleb. You guys are trying to get me to take down even my applesauce pouches, which were
Yeah.
my backup for when I did experience a bit of gel
Pellet
fatigue,
fatigue.
high carb fatigue. But there was no way in hell I wanted a gel. I tried taking down applesauces. I threw those up the second round. Didn't want high carb. And then, yeah, you sent Caleb packing along with a little bakery lemon square. I was like, I don't want solid food because that's going to come right back up. I appreciate the thought, but no, but absolutely not. And so, as you said, yeah, you got brisk iced tea, put it in
Yeah.
one of my handhelds, and the fact that it was just like sugary and sweet, but not high carb, I just started chugging it down because also like my mouth tastes like
Yeah.
garbage at this point. There is nothing left in my stomach because I've thrown up 6 times at this point. So that iced tea was the best thing I had ever tasted at that point. I was like, this is maybe what's going to get me by for the rest of this run.
Well, it pretty much, it's funny. I had heard this story. I don't even know if it's true or not, but I had heard this story that Cam Levins either used to or still does fuel his marathons with Country Time lemonade. And so I was like, oh, interesting. So like, again, I'm in this middle like backwoods country store that has like nothing. I was like, lemonade, iced tea, like something. It was like iced tea. And I'm like, I'm doing the math going like, I got like 6 minutes till she's at that trailhead. I got to find something, right? And so luckily it worked. It's not as high carb for sure as
No.
what we were trying to do. But the funny thing is I bought myself a root beer because I was like, well, I'll get a pop for me, as I go through. And then you were getting the iced tea and Caleb said you came back from zombie mode and he was like, okay, Brant, you got to get her more pops. And I'm like, oh, I don't have anywhere in this stuff. But I was like, I've got this like root beer, and he's on speakerphone with you. And I hear you go, oh, root beer. And I was like, okay, guess that's going in a handheld. So I take my pop and I pour it in the handheld and hand it off. And that's pretty much what got you to about 80K when Corey came in.
Yeah. So this is a very well-known thing with triathletes, and you being one of them. It's like you guys get Cokes, like you get
Cokes.
bottles of Coke when you're on big long rides or training days or whatever, and like you just pound back carbonated drinks. I've never taken a carbonated drink in the middle of a training run or race or whatever. Like that doesn't sound great, having these like bubbles coming up in your stomach. But once you said on the speakerphone with Caleb running beside me that you had root beer, I thought you said Dr. Pepper at the time. I love both, so it didn't matter. I was like, I'm willing to try anything at this point, like anything that's not synthetic carbs. And so you put it in the hand flask and I start sipping it. I was like, this is the nectar of the gods. Like, I feel like I am human again. Like, this is incredible. And again, like between the iced tea and the root beer, like it wasn't setting my stomach off. Like I was actually able to sip it, digest it. And I was like, okay, like it's not getting worse. Yeah. So now we know brisk iced tea and root beer apparently works when you're in the middle of an ultra.
Well, it's funny. I remember, like I've coached and crewed some FKTs and ultras and stuff, but when we had Matt on, like from Team Run Run, I talked to him about, because he was getting ready for the 24-hour champs.
Yeah.
And I was asking him about tips and like what he thought, and he was like, long distance ultra stuff is essentially about problem solving.
Yeah.
Because he's like, there are things that are going to go sideways. And so I remembered that as we were getting ready for this. And I thought of everything. I was like, I got extra headlamps. I got extra gear. We got shoe changes. We got people for the whole thing. And then sure enough, it's like, well, the bike goes. It's like, well, I didn't have a backup to that backup, which was like, that was already the backup for somebody being with you, right? So I was like, okay, well, that sucks. I was like, next time, pack 2 sets of pedals, apparently. And then on the fueling side, like we had a cooler of everything. I had extra bottles of just water. We had extra Tailwind. We had extra Scratch. We had extra gels. Everything you could think of. I did not have iced tea or A&W packed. But, I think one of the cool things is, if and when you go back to the ultra stuff, it's like that's in the pack now. Like we kind of learned that for you is the thing that, if we start to experience that early on, it's like, okay, give her the iced tea or the root beer early, right? To kind of, push that out. So that's good. I wanted to go through the fueling stuff because I think that's a raw and unfiltered take about what can go on with fueling. And so from a pacing perspective, like if there's technical people out there wanting to listen to your pacing and hear about it. So you were on 444, 737 mile pace for about 60, 65K. So at one point you were 6-7 minutes up on 823 pace. So 823 823 for the whole trail was roughly what we wanted to do. That was the plan set out at 450 kilometers. You had run the 80K at 444s, but that was relatively easy, so we knew we could push on that. You ended up, I think it was 457s for run time, I think total, 454s for run pace average, which was insane. But what did it feel like when things started to go sideways from a pacing perspective? Because we were checking in a lot of the checkpoints, so I could do the math about when you're going to be at the next one and where you're at and how to coach you. But you would have started to see some of those splits with the stoppage time for puking and such as we get into the cramping. You would have seen those change. What was it like mentally to kind of battle through the process of running 103 kilometers and the outcome goal that you kind of had that were kind of coexisting like that?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like we went in with the soft goal of running 4-minute 50-kilometer pace for the entire 100 plus kilometers. And I thought that seemed very doable, very achievable. Again, like that was a soft, easy goal because, as you said, my 80-kilometer I had run at 4:44 pace. So the idea was like, don't go out too quick, but also listen to your effort. I'm a very big effort-based runner. And so I started around 4:53 pace and was cutting down to like 4:49, 4:48, not intentionally, but just because that's what my body was giving me and telling me felt easy. Eventually that was 4:46, 4:45. And when I was running with Steve, he's like, we just clocked a 4:39. Okay, we're 4:40, we're 4:41. He's like, should we be slowing down? But you know, I was running what the course was giving me at that time, because there are certain stretches of the trail which are nicer and faster and better maintained than others. So I was never once trying to pick up the pace or intentionally negative split sections. It was just like, this is what feels good right now. So even after the first throw up, like I looked at my watch, I looked at the amount of time I spent throwing up. It was about 50, 55 seconds. Like I kept it under a minute. I was okay. I was like, no problem. 1 minute of stop time. It's not going to make or break this FKT. Even the second time, I think that one might've been more impressive. I think we found out it was like maybe like 30 or 40 seconds of stop time to throw up. So again, less than 2 minutes of stop time. I was not concerned about that. Do I know it's going to add to my overall average pace? For sure. But like, what are you going to do? Not throw up? Like my body wasn't going to give me that option. So I kind of had to concede to that. Because I wasn't able to get the fuel in, this led to calf cramping. And so that was after the 80-kilometer mark. I was running beside Corey. He was on the bike. And if anyone knows Corey, he's just the perfect person that you would want at that point in time. Like he had a portable speaker, I think in like the back of his bicycle jersey. It was playing this song that like, I don't know, it's kind of like mine and Corey's song. And I just had the biggest smile on my face, despite the fact that I was feeling like trash at that point. And having a fresh face was just so wonderful. And so at that point, I'm running low 8-minute miles or, 5:03 minute per kilometer pace. And I don't know how much Corey knew about what I had been through up until that point, but I think he was still expecting me to be running 450 pace instead of 5:03s. And he's like, all right, buddy, pick it up. Let's go. Come on, pick it up. And I'm like, oh no. I was like, there is no picking it up at this point. This is maintain. This is like, stop the bleeding and just hold the pace you are, recognizing I didn't have a lot of gears to go faster at that point because I didn't have the nutrition and the fuel in my body. I had already gotten rid of it. And so I was really trying not to slow down much more than like 5:15 per kilometer pace. Like I did not want to get into 5:30 pace. I wanted to keep it below that. It didn't feel good, but I could maintain it. It was hard to push faster than that because, again, like there was no sodium, calories, or carbs in my body. And so during one stretch, Corey had to get off his bike and he actually like massaged out my right calf because it just felt like there was like a tennis ball behind it just from a lack of nutrition. And then we got going again and it felt good for a couple kilometers. And then approaching the next point that we would see you, I asked Corey, I was like, can you go bike up ahead, tell Brant that the cramping has come back. And so you knew to expect me. You had me like lean on you and then you massaged out my calf for a second time. And I think that was around like 88 or 89 kilometers. Cause I think I had about 13K left at that point. I think it was, to answer your question, it was hard to see the pace slipping when it wasn't a fitness problem. It was, I lost my nutrition. That was kind of hard to stomach, no pun intended. But I also knew that even if I was slower than 450 pace, I was well ahead of the previous FKT time of 9 hours and 11 minutes. So I didn't want to get close to that time, but I knew I had a lot of wiggle room. So I was still very confident, 100% confident I was getting the FKT. It just wasn't going to be quite as fast as we had planned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about the FKT and the actual outcome of it here in a moment. But when we were driving back, or maybe it was the next day, I can't remember, you told me this really cool story about, like, from your clinical practice about how you got through this. So a lot of what we do with our athletes is like building out their competitive identity and their reset routine. And so you had just, like, leading into this, had met with an athlete relatively new to working with you, and you had them in their previous session build out their reset routine, and they came back and you were like pumped when you heard it. And, you know, I'll kind of say it, you used it on the day. And so maybe explain what it is, how you coached that young athlete, and what it is you did to use that reset routine. Because I think the mental side of ultra, right, is really, really hard. Like, you've got these big lulls, right, where, you know, especially when you're energy low, you feel like you quit, you can't do it, you're going to miss the goal or the cutoff, whatever it is, right? But you battled and came back, and I think this tool is really important. So I'd love for you to share what it is you did.
Yeah, so without going to, identifiers of who this person is, she is an athlete. She had a bad fall, bruised her body, was really scared to do her skill or this thing that injured herself. Encountered a really big mental block, went through a rough patch for a couple weeks, and then was eventually able to come out the other side and be like, well, I have to keep trying. I have to do this again. Otherwise, this skill is going to have this control and this power over me. And so we worked through that, and she was kind of on the upswing, getting better, feeling better mentally and physically. And so I literally saw her last week, like 3 days before the FKT attempt. And she came to me with what I had given her homework. And I was like, I want you to come up with this reset statement or this grounding statement so that when something happens, pulls you out of this like confident, in the zone mindset when you're feeling nervous, scared, anxious, tense, that you can come back to yourself, come back to your body, come back to feeling and performing at your best. And so she came up with what she called the 3 R's. So she said, relax, reset, redo. And I was like, okay, slay. So I was like, okay, walk me through what each of those 3 R's feels like, looks like. And so she said, if she falls, if she has a bad move, a bad practice, relax, take a deep breath, get outside of your head because you're always overthinking when this is happening. And then she said, reset. So she'll just like take a hot lap, go for a walk, go for a whatever, right? Just go through the motions is what she said. And then the redo is like, gotta try it again. Dust yourself off, do it again. And so after I had thrown up for the first time, because for the first time I was by myself, Caleb wasn't with me. And again, I wasn't in a super negative headspace at that point, but I objectively know that throwing up your nutrition is not a good place to be, and it can lead to very bad outcomes. And so I told myself, I was like, relax, one foot in front of the other, just keep running, take a deep breath. And I did, like, I intentionally took a very slow, deep, intentional breath. And then my reset was keep running, keep going, don't worry about the watch, just get your feet back under you after you've stopped for 50 seconds or whatever. And then my redo was like, well, I guess it's just keep going, right? Like, leave that behind. You still have 55 kilometers left. You can't be thinking about that thing that just happened. You have to be problem solving and just getting through the next kilometer. So I stole my athlete or my client's reset routine, which I'll have to share with her this week when I see her. But it was helpful in the moment just to really practice what I preach or what she preached to me, to be like, don't freak out. Things can and will go wrong. And it's just how you navigate them.
Yeah. What do you think you learned by pushing yourself this way? Because this was the most I've seen you hurt and the hardest I've seen you work. And that's not to take away from anything you've done, to be clear, but I think you'll agree on that that's kind of the hardest thing you've done. So what did you learn by doing this?
Oh my gosh. I didn't know that I could feel that horrible, honestly, probably more mentally than physically, even though the physical pain of throwing up and of these like gut-wrenching pains was far from enjoyable. I didn't know that my mind could go to such low, dark places and recover from that, or at least like keep going in that dark spot for quite a long time. And I've shared with a couple of our friends and training partners, like, I've had a pretty charmed experience when it comes to racing and training. And even with a DNF in Berlin or a DNF in Grandma's, like my mind didn't really go to dark places there. Like I made the conscious decision to pull out of those to avoid injury, to avoid fainting at Grandma's or whatever. But I've never experienced something like what happened on Saturday. And it's alarming. If you've never been in that scenario before, it is very alarming and very jarring because you don't know if you can come out on the other side because you haven't done it before. And I, for better or worse, have largely only had very positive experiences. We've joked about this before. Like I have had a charmed experience with running. Everything has come fairly easily or fairly naturally to me. And to battle through that level of discomfort mentally and physically does not come naturally to me. So it was, yeah, it was a whole new experience that I think, I mean, I wasn't grateful for it in the moment, but now that it's a couple of days removed, I can be grateful for it because I know that it will serve me in one way or another, whatever I decide to do next, whether it's another ultra, whether it's a road race. You know, you don't have to look good, feel good to perform good. Yeah. So I think that was one of my biggest takeaways.
Yeah. And like, I know we didn't like lead with this per se. We led that you got the FKT, but you broke the women's course record by over 2.5 hours. Right. So, and like that on itself is pretty crazy, but you also took the men's FKT by like 41 minutes as well. Like you were the outright for the supported, not the unsupported, but for supported FKT. And so what was it like kind of chasing this experience, both like hitting a significant milestone in the ultras, right? Like 100K tends to be the, you know, gateway drug, so to speak, to the ultra stuff. But what was it like doing that? And then chasing this big goal of an FKT and actually like getting that goal, because you are someone who's very process oriented, and we kind of put this together. We knew it was within reach. It wasn't like this big stretch to be able to do it. But what was it like to get that kind of? Well, I guess technically we're waiting for them to validate it. It should be validated any day now. But what was it like to kind of get that big milestone and check it off as the fastest known time for that trail?
It's wild. Honestly, I was not able to process anything mentally on Saturday. Like I was crawling my way into the Starbucks afterwards. Like I laid down on the bench and was moaning and like writhing in pain. Like people were looking at me being like, what is wrong with this girl? And even when I asked this kind stranger to take a picture of all of us on the booth, she goes, yeah, I'll take your picture. Why? Like what happened? Why am I taking this picture? What's so significant? And like, I probably wasn't going to say anything, but one of you, whether it was you or Corey or whoever, said, oh, she just ran from Napanee to Smith Falls. So
her response too was why? Like it was a visceral, like, why would you do that kind of thing? It was hilarious. Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't process anything about what I had just accomplished on Saturday because I was in so much pain and discomfort. And like, I was, even like after I stopped my watch, I was rolling on the ground, like trying not to throw up for the 7th time. And also crying. Like I was just so overwhelmed by emotion, but none of it was achievement, proud, happy. It was like relief that I could stop running, relief that I had finished when so many things were stacked against me to not finish on the day. But now that it's a few days removed, yeah, I'm really happy. I think maybe it means more knowing how hard it ended up being, because again, my 50K was easy, my 80K was easy. And not that those weren't great. They felt great as well. But I think this one is more meaningful because it didn't come easy to me. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just, we've said before, like just to be able to rewrite what you think you're capable of. And again, maybe the distance wasn't, you know, crazy for me because I knew or I thought I could run the distance, but to know that I could go to those places. And even though I was in a world of pain, you know, basically from 70 kilometers onwards, I remember picking up Corey at the 80 kilometer mark and checking my watch like 1 kilometer later. I'm like, well, this is the farthest I've ever run. So even when I was feeling so terrible, I was still trying to celebrate those little wins. Like any point past 80 kilometers was my longest run in distance, but also at time on feet because I was running at a slower pace than the 80K. And I remember looking at my watch at 100K and I was like, oh, I just came through at whatever it was, like 8:15, 8 hours,
Yeah.
15 minutes or something. So that did feel significant. And like I was able to acknowledge that in the moment. I think also at that point, because I knew I was so close and I was like, if I hit 100, I only have a couple kilometers left. And I did the same thing in this 100K or 103K, whatever, that I did in the 50K and the 80K, when I could eventually stop thinking in terms of distance and think about, hey, I have 2 hours left to run, give or take, based on my pace, which was a bit fluctuating. Or I have 90 minutes left. I have 75 minutes left. Like when I could start chunking it in time, it gave me that boost to be like, okay, like just keep going. It is so much more manageable. You are so close at this point. And actually, Steve, at one point when I think I was about 7 kilometers left, he's like, you just have a Fritter Friday run left. Like keep going. And I was like there was so much Fritter Friday lore on this run on Saturday, which was very heartwarming.
Yeah, that's great. And so I know we don't have anything else planned per se, but how's the recovery going, and what are you thinking about tackling next?
Recovery has gone incredibly well, which if you had asked me immediately afterwards on Saturday, like we had even said, like, you're probably not going to run for a week. Yeah. Because my calves were sore, my psoas was really tight just from like some of the camber and uneven terrain of the trail. I had some quad tightness, but again, I'm attributing probably 99% to not having fuel in my body towards the end of this run for the better half of this run. Like I threw up for the first time at around 45K. So for the second half, I wasn't able to take much fuel in. So Saturday felt terrible. And then Sunday I woke up, I was a little bit sore, but I could already feel my body feels, 10 times better than it did last night. But we played it safe. I did not do anything on Sunday. Monday, so that was yesterday, was feeling really good. And you very kindly gave me permission or gave me the green light I did 30 minutes on the elliptical, just super easy. And then I went out for a 30-minute run at faster than the average pace. I ran my 103. So I was feeling recovered. I'm feeling recovered. Like I'm going to go for a run after we finish recording. So again, like I just have such trust and faith in my body. And this is the benefit of us, having the coach partner relationship that we do, is like, you can see that I'm not BSing when I say I'm recovered. I'm feeling good. Like I wouldn't lie to you, and I can't lie to you because it would be really hard to fake walking up or down a set of stairs if I was still sore. So again, it just gives me not even the hope, like the knowledge that like, should I attempt that again, again, barring any, GI distress, like I can run that at a faster pace, set a faster FKT, either at or faster than our initial goal, which was 450 pace. So really nice to see how my body's coming around on the third day after.
So do you want to do it again faster next year?
We'll see. Because like this time of year also posed some interesting challenges. Like I had to, like, there's a section of the trail that flooded over and it was fully ice. And it wasn't like the thin ice where you can just like run across it and it just like very easily breaks. Like it was a skating rink. And I thought, oh, you can just kind of go to one side. It fully covered the trail. So I had to like penguin shuffle like very slowly over top of it. I had to climb over fallen trees because we had had a crazy windstorm for like the 2 days preceding Saturday. I had some like little steeplechase, had some penguin shuffling on the ice. Carson, who had set the fastest known time on the Cataraqui Trail prior to me in 2021, he did it in May, which you could encounter different sets of challenges. Like maybe it could be more wet. Maybe you could have
humid,
a really hot, humid day. So I think it's always hard to know what conditions you're going to get, in particular in those flex seasons like spring and fall. But I think knowing what I know, I would be willing to do it again. Maybe I'm saying that to you for the first time now. But also I have a better idea of what to expect because I went in blissfully ignorant to this. And I think actually for me, it was a good thing because if I had seen stretches of the trail that I have never run before, like closer to Smith Falls, if I had seen those stretches before, I would have been dreading them.
Psych
and
yourself out.
Yeah, 100%. But because I didn't know that they were coming, it was just a bit of blissful ignorance. And like at that point, you're 80 kilometers in. It's like, what are you going to do? Stop? And I mean, I wanted to at 65K. So yeah, I would 100% do it again. I would have all sorts of different fuel should shit hit the fan. And yeah, I think barring different conditions or different circumstances, I could run it even faster. So
Well, once we decide what's next, we'll announce and we'll talk about that too, because then you can go chase some more fun stuff.
yeah, to be clear though, for anyone who has messaged me, I have no desire to do a 100 miler right now. That sounds terrible. Like I think the 50-mile distance is actually, I think out of the three, that was probably my favorite distance was the 80K. And not just because it went well and felt well. I think it was just, yeah, it's a nice
Good
distance.
distance for
But
you.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
100K on the KMP. Maybe hop
Yeah.
in with whatever Caleb does next and, pace him or return the favor and do some crewing for him. But yeah, definitely hopping into these longer distances has been really fun.
Cool. Yeah. And we'll just wrap it up. I just want to make sure, I know we did it once already, but big shout out to Eric at Solomon who hooked you up with stuff to get going. That was like super helpful. And then fuel goods, obviously, where we get our fuel, because that was indispensable for you. Well, it did get suspended, but anyways, it'll be all good. So yeah, I just want to make sure those people, because that was like big supports, both those Eric from Solomon and Laura and Courtney at Fuel Goods. So cool. All right. Well, whenever we get something else to talk about, I'm sure we'll jump on again.
Okay, thank you.
Nice.